He getting worship in the heavens by the angels. Hallelujah, hallelujah. He feed the birds of the heaven, he'll feed you. When you was broke, he paid your bills when they was overdue. I put my trust in God, y'all be believing you. I put my trust in God, cause he'll see it through. I trust in God cause he delivered me from addiction. I was sick in my sin, his love is my prescription. What kind of man forgive his killers at his crucifixion? So I had to die to myself, I guess it's the benediction. My trust in God remove me from the devil's jurisdiction. You say you trust him, but you're stressing, that's a contradiction. If faith's your gun, trust is your ammunition. Be a vicious of men is the greatest commission. You put the trust in tradition and have you out of position. With your trust in him, the solid above the opposition.
Hey guys, it's your girl Latoya Renee, and you're tuning into Sisters Can We Talk. This show is a show about empowerment and allowing our faith to reach each other. So today I have a special guest. Her name is Miss Willette Toy Thomas. Yay! Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Your testimony is a testimony of being broken, but finding your purpose in the brokenness.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Tell
is.
us about your story.
So let's start. Willette Toy. I grew up in the projects of Baltimore City, and we all know what comes with the projects.
Yes.
It's a lot. You see a lot. You experience a lot. Especially as a child, you probably see more than you ought to see as a child. In that, I suffered through years of molestation, and then as a preteen was actually raped at knife point in my sleep. But even in all of that, you know, God still kept strengthening me, although, let me say this part, I didn't know him like that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't grow up in church.
Really?
No, I did not. Didn't grow up in church. My family was Catholic, and we went to church on New Year's Eve, Easter, and I think that's it.
That's it?
That's it? I think that's it. Yes, we didn't grow up in church, and it wasn't, you know, God, it wasn't that they didn't believe, it's just, we didn't worship, we didn't have a relationship, we didn't do any of that. So, but as I grew older and I look back on my life, it was only God that kept me through all of that, because it was a lot. I was actually molested starting at the age of 3.
Wow.
And a lot of people may say, well, how do you know that at 3? Years later in my adult life, I kept having this vision.
Right.
And I kept seeing this man running out the back door and my dad chasing him. And I never understood why I kept, it was reoccurring.
Right.
So I asked my mom, and she just cried because she knew what that day was.
Right.
And so, and that was the beginning of it.
Right.
And then, you know, with molestation, with rape, you know, it brings a lot. For everybody, it's different.
Right.
So for me, it spun me into my teenage years of a lot of promiscuity.
Let's go back, because you said that you used to visit your grandparents?
Yes, I did. I used to visit my grandparents in New York for the summers. That was one of my escapes. We talked about that. Yes, New York was one of my escapes. It was a place for me to be the little girl.
You said I was that little girl that I always wanted to be.
Yes.
Yes.
So there I was able to be that little girl. You know, my grandmother did the whole cookies and milk before bed. And my aunt was a teacher, so we read books and we talked about different books. And, you know, they took me to the playground. I didn't just go. You know, so
right.
I was able to be that little girl and escape my world. And one of the other things that I did, and we did talk about that, now this is jogging my memory. We talked about one of my other escapes was dancing. I love to dance, and that was an escape for me. It was once again that place of that, I don't know, I felt safe in it. And it was just me, and I think it was a place of surrender. A place to just once again be free
and be you
and be me. So so that I did love.
Talk more about you in your teen years.
So teen years were, they were ugly. I you know, teen years was, like I said, it was just full of a promiscuous lifestyle at a very young age. You know, because now again, not understanding it then, but fully understanding it now in Christ, you know, I've now had this spirit.
Right.
You know, grow up in me. And so now where it was taken, now I'm freely giving.
Yes, you said I was freely doing now what people have done to me in my younger years.
Yes. So now I'm feeding a hunger.
Yeah. Ooh.
I'm feeding a thirst that was placed in me that I didn't even fully understand what it was.
Right.
So, but still, here's the crazy part.
What?
In your feeding it, at the end of it, you're like, you still feel that same yucky, nasty emptiness, you know, feeling, but yet you're still running after this thirst, and you're still running after this hunger again that you don't fully understand is a spirit, and because that's really what it boiled down to. Now I'm getting high, at a young age, so all of that's my life, you know. Again, now I go from modern dance at the rec center and ballet at the rec center to now, well, ballet actually was in New York, but modern dance and hip hop dance at the rec center to now I'm older, so now I can go to clubs, I can go to parties, I can go, you know, so again, I'm still letting dancing be my outlet. Dancing was still my free place. Right. So now I'm going off to college. And I'm ready. I'm ready to get up out of this neighborhood. I'm ready to get away from everybody. And the getting high became more. Wow. The promiscuous lifestyle became more. You know, the clubs now.
You in there.
I'm in there. I'm in there. Yeah. You know, and so that's, you know, where my life just kept spinning and evolving. And, you know, and the thing was, let's go back a little bit. When I got raped, I was asleep in my bed. And it was at the onset of me going to high school. Wow. And another thing too was my brother, one of the things my brother he would tell me throughout the years, sis, we got to get out of here. You know, and the only way we're going to get out of here is education. Yes. So one thing I did, which is, you know, again, I contribute to God because I was able to, with all of the trauma that and all of the stuff I was going through, I was able to maintain education. I stayed, you know, on a roll. I was able to go to, you know, honors school. I, you know, and I was able to maintain. And that's what I did because again, that was a means to escape. Yes. So that's what that became for me. And so
talk about so you saying that you went into, you know, you went to high school, you went to college, but there was a point where you found your first husband.
Yes. So after college, which I didn't finish college because I had too much going on. Right. When you're getting high, you're not focused, and at this point, my world is spiraling. My world is spiraling out of control. So at this point, I move away and to live with my brother.
Where did you move to?
I actually moved to Chicago. Okay. My brother was stationed there. And I moved up there with him to kind of get my life together. And I went to the Navy base and I met this guy who loved to dance. And we danced all night. But little did I know that was a dance that led me into a relationship that what I deem as a fairy tale on one side and Nightmare on Elm Street on the other side. So I had my 4 beautiful daughters and that marriage. I had my 4 beautiful daughters in that relationship, but he was what I deem as a closet crack addict.
Now, did you know that he was using before you got married, before?
Yes.
You did?
I did, but not to the degree that he was. So
what was going through your mind, Jesus, when you realized that he was, using?
So I first realized he was using when I went out to California, because he was from California. When I went out to California to meet his family, and he binged that night, one night when we were there. But when you was a person, because mind you, I'm still not saved yet.
Right. Okay.
So when you was a person who got high and had some sense of control, you feel like everybody do. You know, you feel like everybody has that means to stop.
Yes.
And so, and then I'm thinking, he's in the military, and you know, crack addicts and that generation, you know, were strung out on the street and, you know, not living any type of life.
But he was functional.
But he was functional.
Wow.
And so I ignored it. I ignored it.
Red flag.
Yeah, I ignored it. Major flag.
Yes.
I ignored it.
Yeah.
And we got married, and it was binge after binge after binge. Then
How long was you guys married?
12 years. Wow. Yeah, because that caring heart of mine, you know, said, and because when it was good,
it was good.
it was great.
Yeah.
When it was good, it was great.
Yeah.
But when it was bad,
Yeah.
it was every horror movie you could think of, all in one.
Wow.
And because it wasn't always bad, you get codependent in it yourself.
I was gonna say, you said something. You was like how people would ask you, "Why did you stay?" And you said that when you was trusting in God, the memories of the good days, and you wanted to help him cope with his addiction.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was hoping that our marriage that our relationship, not even a marriage, our relationship was strong enough. Because at this point, I am saved now.
Right.
You know, I got saved the day we got married.
Okay, Jesus, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my heart, you know, I'm a babe in Christ.
Yeah.
God, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You can do everything.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's what I believe.
Right.
And you know, and so I stayed and I hoped. And then, you know, as time went on, he's now put out of the military. He's now, you know, trying to find jobs. So now the pressures of life.
Yeah, it's hitting him.
It's hitting him really hard.
Yeah.
So now the pressures of life that's hitting him is now beginning to hit me.
Yeah.
So that's when the abuse began to start for me, towards me, with the physical abuse.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was like, okay, I'm still trying to do this thing. I'm still trying
To live this life.
And you know, and hope
Yeah.
that it's okay. And then, you know, I had a couple of church mothers who told me, you know, baby, stay and stand.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, and then with my own, you know, idea of it all, I stayed and I stood till I couldn't stand anymore.
I was going to ask you, what was the breaking point of you, like, you know what? I can't do this.
The breaking point for me was my children. Because the abuse started going to my children.
Wow.
Yeah, and it only happened once, but
Yeah,
that was all it took. It took for me.
Right.
It's one thing for me to endure this pain,
But the children.
but when my children
Yeah.
have to now suffer from
Yeah.
it was time for me to go.
Yeah.
And so that was our breaking point.
Wow. So what did you do after that when you was like, you know what, I'm out, you know?
So I stayed. And we were in station. Well, he was stationed. That's where we were in Virginia at the time. But he was out the military. And so at that point, I ended up back where I never wanted to be.
Where?
Never wanted my children to be. I ended up back in the projects.
Wow.
I ended up back in public housing with my children, and that was devastating for me.
Do you think after all of that, was that your lowest point, or?
No. I never, you know, it's funny you asked me that.
Yeah.
I never thought about what was my lowest. I never have. Because even in my low, even in what would be deemed my low, I bounced, I kept bouncing. Say for instance, even when we moved in public housing. It was horrible. It was roach infested. You know, it had those cold floors. I mean, it was clammy, and it was the worst one of them all in Virginia. I was like, God, how do I end up in the worst looking one? You know, the worst one. You know, literally, I had to spray the back of my refrigerator, pull my refrigerator out, and pull out my stove every night. And spray it down, and literally every night I swept up a pile of roaches.
Wow!
But it kept everything maintained to where, unlike the other houses, I didn't have roaches running all over the place. But it was backbreaking.
Yeah.
It wore me out. But it was even in that though. I decorated. Even in that, you know, I made my place look as much like
you
a
trying
home
to get the
as I
brighter
could.
side.
Yeah,
Did you
and that's
feel-
why I said never see alone.
Did you feel like God was telling you something at that point, or did you feel God?
Yes, actually, at that time, I was actually a part of a ministry in Virginia, and you know, and that was my sense of worth,
Right,
and hope
right.
still at that point. So again, at that time, honestly, I was still married, so I was still hoping.
Yeah.
Even though we were separated, I was still hoping.
How many? Oh Jesus! How many of us? I had one other guest, and how many of us are still hoping when the situation is just bad? And most of us, you know, the Lord said you need to just let it go. But Lord, I'm hoping. I hope that, you know what I'm saying, that this thing would turn around. But
for me, though, I never felt like God told me to come out of it.
Really? Wow. Did you?
I don't know that I asked. Let's just be honest about that.
Yes.
I don't know that I asked.
Yes.
I don't know that I thought it was that kind of an option. As a babe in Christ. I didn't. Because remember, I was new at that part of my life. So I was still growing and evolving and learning.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I didn't
know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So when, are you still married or?
So, like I said, after the children, I moved here. Actually, I didn't move here, to be honest. I came down here for a wedding. And the night before I came here, one of the ministers from my church, she called me and she said, "Woman of God, I see you going on a trip." She said, "I'm going to tell you now, you're not coming back." She said, "I need you to take all of your children's clothes, as much as you can in your car, and your clothes." She said, your business clothes. And so I'm like, "Oh, what is this?" I secretly stuffed all of their clothes in trash bags and pushed them all the way to the back of my trunk. I packed down on because we were just coming down from the wedding. And my brother and my sister-in-law at the time, they had been trying to get me to move down here anyway, but I didn't want to.
Was you still married?
Yes, I was still legally married, but we were separated. So I get here, and my sister-in-law is like, it's a job fair on Monday. You should go." So I go. And I'm like, God, and then literally Monday I go on this job fair. Tuesday, people are calling me for interviews. And so I was like, God, if this is really you, let a job call me by Friday. Thursday night, we're all in the kitchen, we're eating dinner, and phone rings, brother answer it, and he says his phone. I'm like, who be calling me? Because again, I'm in my mind, I'm like, we're leaving after this weekend. We're going back to Virginia. So they called me, and it was AccuStaff at the time. They said, "We have a 1-day assignment for you tomorrow." I said, "God, you really got a sense of humor." I know I said I need a job by Friday, but come on now. You got a sense of humor here. So I'm writing down the address. I'm not familiar with the address. My brother is behind me losing his mind because he knows the address. Because the address was CSX. And I've been there literally ever since. I never left, like she said. I eventually, get on my own. I eventually get a divorce, and then I backslid. And just
talk about that, because a lot of us don't want to talk about us backsliding, and a lot of us do it.
I don't know why we don't.
Right.
It's real. It happens, and it's unfortunate. I was broken. I came here. I'm now everything that has occurred. From my previous, from my marriage has now settled in on me. And I didn't even tell you this part. It just came to me how there were times we were in. Me and my children had went to not a homeless shelter, but to a battered women's shelter. Because there was one time my ex-husband, locked us in the house. and I had bruises all over me, and they had a doctor's appointment. That was the only way I could get out.
Wow.
You know, I mean, it was just like scenario after scenario of drug dealers following him in the house.
Right.
But in all of that, God kept us.
Yes.
I still remember the day when I guess he was a drug dealer. He ran in the house behind him, and I could hear the guy telling him, "Man, don't be playing with me. I need my money," because it's in the middle of the night.
Yes.
But God kept us.
Yes.
Kept my children in that. A week later, I'm sitting and I'm watching the news, and I hear a story on the news about an apparent drug deal gone bad that resulted in a husband, a wife, and their children were all deceased.
Wow.
And all I could do was thank God.
Yes.
Because that could have very much so easily been us on any given time. So in all of that, you know, I knew God was there. I knew God was real.
Right.
Nobody could tell me he wasn't.
Right.
When I came down here, I began to now become, I don't know, bitter came up.
After all of that,
After all of that, bitter came up. Because bitter said, why did your marriage God, why did my marriage have to end? God, I did everything. All of this. That. God, I prayed. God, I fasted.
Yeah.
God, I love this man. When I say love him, I like there were times when he would come home after a binge, you know, spent all the money. You know, we don't have any rent money. We don't have, but yet I still loved. I said, God, I did everything you told me to. Why did my marriage have to end? And so bitter began to talk to me. So I backslid. Because at that point, it's like, what's the point?
Right, of doing this.
Of doing this.
Yes.
I mean, because if this is what the results are going to be, why keep doing it?
Right.
And so that's what I did. And then I got married again.
You said that you was a broken woman with low self-esteem, and you remarried without healing when you heard God said,
Wait.
Talk about it.
And I didn't. So now, you know, I done got myself together a little bit. I've settled down a little bit more, and I was introduced to this guy. And, you know, when you come from a marriage where you're not settled and you're not stable, he was settled
and stable.
And he was stable. I could set a clock by him. I could set my whole life by him. Because his life was that regimen. You know, I knew where he was, when he was, everything. And so we married. Even though God told me to wait, I didn't. Because my brokenness, my low self-esteem said, who's going to marry me with 4 children? Who is going to marry me with 4 children? And here this man is here. He's willing to marry you. Why not?
Wow.
And
did you? I know that he was stable, but did you love him?
I did love him, but we weren't compatible. We wasn't. I mean, because when you're broken, how can you choose properly? When you're broken, how can you don't even know who you are. I didn't even know who I was. I had been in a 12-year abusive relationship, and in all of that, I became broken. In all of that, I didn't know who I was anymore. I remember looking in a mirror one day, trying to figure out, when did I start wearing my hair like this? When did I start
didn't recognize
I didn't recognize me.
Wow.
But yet now I have allowed myself to go into yet another relationship, not knowing who I was.
Right.
Not having no worth about myself, not deeming myself worthy enough to even figure out, you know, if this is something that is healthy for me, or that I need to do, or that will, you know, allow happiness to shine forth. All I'm hearing is, who will marry me with 4 children? That's all I heard.
Wow.
So we are in this marriage. We are serving in ministry diligently. We are working diligently. We're, you know, the kids are being raised. But we are numb.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, we're numb.
Was you depressed?
No, I was too busy to be depressed.
Wow.
Between ministry and the children,
Right.
I was too busy to be depressed.
But you was numb.
I just tunneled. I was numb in the marriage. I tunneled all of my energy into
Elsewhere, your children
and ministry, and
Wow.
going to work, and
Wow.
and that's
Wow.
So, and it was easy to drown yourself in it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. But
How long
still
was you
no
in that
hope.
marriage?
14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I finally got to the point where I was like, we're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
We tried.
Mhm.
It's not here. I mean, we were just too numb.
Wow.
We were too numb.
So even he was numb as well?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is crazy. That is crazy because a lot of us, we stay in a marriage or a relationship and we just stay. There's no love, there's no affection, there's no, and it's like, well, I'm here now.
Yeah. And that was the thing. So for me, because God told me to wait and I didn't, I subjected myself to this is my punishment.
You said that, and I thought that was crazy for
Yeah.
you to, at that moment, to think in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I subjected, because in my mind I'm thinking, you did this.
Mhm.
So you need to suffer through this.
Mm.
You need to do what you need to do in this.
What was your breaking point for this marriage?
The kids are now gone. I've changed ministries,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have that outlet anymore.
Oh.
And I'm looking at us.
Yeah.
And we had conversations where, we said, well, let's try to figure this out.
Right.
Let's try to get to know each other.
Right.
And we didn't know each other. We couldn't figure it out.
14 years.
14 years. We didn't know each other. We couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
It was just dead.
Yeah.
It was just dead.
Yeah.
But to the outside world, we were great. We were great. But in our world, we wasn't.
Yeah.
We wasn't.
Yeah. Because I can remember, because you know me for a very long time. And I would look at you like, oh, they're so cute. But you don't know what's going on
right.
behind. So when we heard that you guys, I'm like, huh?
I know, everybody was like that. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. There was not one person, well, maybe one. Outside of that one person, everybody was shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So after that marriage, did you backslid again, or did you?
I did. I did. Because again, now I'm really angry.
Yeah.
And bitter is really talking.
Yeah.
And and he quickly got remarried.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like everything that I ever wanted from him, I was hearing and seeing that he was given to this person. And bitter just started screaming at me.
Right.
And so at that point, it was like, I'm really just done. I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
I need to feel love.
Yeah.
I need to, feel like a woman.
Yeah.
I went through all of that. And then I had a day. I want to go back to something before we go there.
Yes.
You asked me when we talked earlier, you asked me when I was, had the years of molestation, did I tell?
Yes.
I want to talk about that because I want some people to know, and some young people to know, and some mothers to know that we have to have communication with our children, and we have to have hard communication with our children, because our children, as children, we formulate our own mind as to how we should function in certain arenas and situations. And in all the years that I was being molested, you asked me, did I tell anybody?
Yes.
My mom and I were very close, very close. I could tell her anything. However, I did not tell her that.
Why?
And I didn't, because my mom was going through her own stuff.
Yes.
She had her own, problems. Her and my dad, they had their own stuff going on. And I didn't want to put one more thing on her plate.
Wow. So you
So I suffered through that.
Yeah.
I suffered through that.
Yeah.
So alone. So I didn't tell her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that if I would have told her, she would have done something about it. But I just didn't want to give her that one more thing. So my whole point for wanting to jump back to that is because I really want parents, because I know it's probably going to be more adults that see this than children, talk to your children, because sometimes your children can think, my mom can't handle this, or my dad won't understand this, or I'm going to get in trouble, or it was my fault, or no.
What would you say to someone that is trying to have communication with the child, but is a blockage there?
As a parent, you have to know. I mean, we parents, you have to know how to break that blockage.
Yeah.
You have to know how to go past that wall.
Yeah.
And really, get your child to talk. And worst come to worst, you find that auntie or that close friend or whomever it is that can get past that wall.
Yes.
Because the communication has to happen.
Yes.
It can't not happen.
Right.
Because this is what it results into.
Right.
A life of emptiness, a life of searching,
Yes.
a life of hoping, a life of
brokenness.
And then it's nothing but brokenness that never gets fixed until you finally surrender everything to Christ.
Yeah.
And that's the point I got to.
Yeah. So if you were younger, what would you do differently?
Oh, I would have told.
Yeah.
I would have told.
Yeah.
Oh, God knows I would have told.
Yeah.
When I look back, if it was my children, I don't care what I am going through.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Because I subjected myself to so much
That you didn't have to.
that I didn't have to. Because again, my mom would have done something.
Yeah.
My dad would have done something.
Yeah.
But because I, as a child,
In your mind.
in my mind, felt like this is too much for you right now.
How incredible to think about that. You're a kid and you're thinking about what's best for your parents.
And you have some children out there like that who are suffering in silence because I don't want to hurt my mom. I don't want to devastate. I don't want my mom to be mad. I don't want my mom to. I don't want to see my mom cry. As children formulate things a whole lot different. And as parents and adults, we have to realize that. Just like think about it. How so many children of divorced families come out of it saying it was my fault.
Yes.
How do you formulate that in
your mind? Yes.
But again, it's the thought of a child that if I would have ate my peas that night,
Right.
they would still be together.
Because
Because that's the night
that they had an argument.
that they had an argument that led to their divorce. But a child doesn't know how to put all of that together.
Yeah.
So again, we fast forward to my life once again spiraling out of control, and me just being tired and sick and tired and sick, and realizing I can't keep doing this.
Right.
I know God.
Yeah. Tell me about where you are now.
Where I am now is I'm at a place where I had a day in the midst of all of that where I come home, I'm in the mirror, and I'm crying. And for some reason I dropped my head, but when I put my head back up, I heard God clearly say, "You're worth waiting for."
Yes.
And I'm like, what? He said, "You are worth waiting for." And I just cried. I said, "God, what does that mean?"
Yes.
He said, "You don't have to keep trying to find
love.
love and compromising yourself and compromising your faith and compromising your relationship with me, because you are worth waiting for." But then I had to go through the journey of finding my worth.
Yes.
I had to go through the journey of allowing myself to get built back up. I had to go through the journey of learning how to love myself again. I had to go through the journey of getting back my relationship with God.
Do you love yourself now?
Oh, I do. Oh, how I do. So much to the point where I won't compromise.
Yeah.
I won't settle. Yes,
Yeah.
I want to be remarried.
Yeah.
I love the entity of marriage.
Yes.
I do, but I won't compromise for it, and I won't settle.
Yes.
I won't.
So this brings you to a new ministry that you are birthing.
Yes. New ministry that God has given me is I'm Worth Waiting. I'm Worth Waiting. And it's a ministry that is going to bring man and woman off of social media dating.
dating apps.
Help us, Lord.
Yes, and help us get back
to that
intimate place where man sees woman across the room and say, wow,
I would like to get to know
I'd like to get to know her.
Right.
You know, we smile at each other from across the room.
Yeah.
We know exactly what you look like, what
I look like. My flaws, your flaws.
Yes,
we're fully aware, right?
Yes, so I want it to be, you know, I'm worth waiting. A lot of people want to coin it as it being, you know, abstinence and this and that. It's about waiting until you're whole.
Yes.
Waiting until you no longer have broken places.
Yes.
Waiting to know what your standards are. Your standards, not my standards, your standards for your life. Waiting to know if we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's as simple as, what's your end goal?
Right.
What's your end goal?
Right.
A man and a woman meet. He wants marriage. She doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a man and a woman meet. She wants children.
He doesn't. Right.
But we don't talk about that stuff.
Because we're on social media
Because,
all the time.
yeah.
And we, you know.
Yeah. And we're not having the real hard conversations. And we're not taking the time to get to know
each
one
other.
another.
Yeah.
You know, we're letting our flesh get to know one another.
Yeah.
And our flesh gets to know one another very well.
When
But
you
when
lead with your flesh.
Exactly. And then when it's all said and done, do I even like you?
We've been through all of this, but do I even like you?
Do I even like you? Oh, we like each other and we're compatible
With
here.
your flesh.
With the flesh. But we can't even hold a
No more conversation
with each other. So I'm worth waiting is going to be a movement.
I love that.
It's going to be a movement for people to once again come back to a place of getting to know one another and waiting and being okay with waiting. Being okay.
He made those. He getting worship in the heavens by the angels. Hallelujah, hallelujah. He feed the birds of the heaven, he'll feed you. When you was broke, he paid your bills when they was overdue. I put my trust in God, y'all be believing you. I put my trust in God, cause he'll see you through. I trust in God cause he delivered me from addiction. I was sick in my sin, his love is my prescription. What kind of man forgive his killers at his crucifixion? So I had to die to myself, I guess it's the benediction. My trust in God remove me from the devil's jurisdiction. You say you trust him, but you're stressing, that's a contradiction. If faith's your gun, trust is your ammunition.